everyone. Welcome to Amazing Plantz4mationz. I am so excited that you are here, and I'm excited here to have my guest. His name is James Earl Jones, and he's a healthy lifestyle advocate who has his certification in plant-based nutrition from the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies, and just recently spoke about the link between animal products causing both poor outcomes for human and environmental health at the Climate Healers VCOP. That is so cool. And I thank you for being here, James. I met him in a 21-day vegan kickstart that we're both part of to kind of help others. And our prayers are with our friend Diana that we met through as she recovers from surgery. And I want to welcome you, James. I accidentally called him Jason once, so I'll never forget that. But I know your name now, and I'm so excited to have you here. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I am doing pretty good today. I'm excited to be here having this conversation. I've done a lot of studies about the nutritional aspects, but I also am excited that we're going to get into some of the environmental things that I might not, realize happens because of animal agriculture too. So, just to begin with, how did this all happen for you? When did you learn about being vegan? Did it kind of happen right away, or have you been vegan since you were young? Like, how did it start?
Okay, no, definitely not since I was young. No, I grew up. I mean, pretty much, average American kid, standard American diet. It wasn't until 2019, I saw a documentary on Netflix. It's called What the Health. Highly encourage anyone who hasn't seen that to see that. Um, and I probably got about 10 minutes into it, and I just knew that something had already kind of started to change in me. Just 10 minutes into watching a single documentary, I mean, it was that impactful for me. I was like blown away by the information that was being given just in the beginning of it. So I mean, just early on into it, you're just like taken away by what the knowledge that is being dropped in there and the facts. And initially, I was a little bit skeptical initially because I mean I'm not the type of person that's gonna just change my whole lifestyle based on a single documentary. So after seeing it, that kind of led me to looking into some of the experts that were in the film, and seeing watching their lectures, and ultimately that led me to starting to buy books. And I went to a health festival. It's called Veg Fest, and they had it in Sedona that year, 2020. This was January of 2020, so it was right before COVID. So there wasn't no COVID stuff yet, and so yeah, it was really cool in Sedona. I got to meet Dr. Michael Greger, who's like,
Cool.
yeah, kind of somebody who I've been really looking up to ever since I started this journey. And I just love the way that he presents everything with all the science first. And you
Mm-hmm.
know so yeah, I got to meet him, and got his books up there, and just kept on reading and reading. And it's just kind of been a never ending kind of thing for me, researching nutritional science, for the past now, I mean, since the beginning, really, 2019. So what, a good 5 years now. Um, so that's kind of how it all started and how I got into it all. And then more recently, I ended up, I guess I wanted to test myself, and kind of prove to myself. And not only that, but I wanted to learn more. So that's when I ended up taking the course with the Center for Nutrition Studies, and getting my plant-based nutrition certificate.
That is awesome. And I think that I was just making some content about that recently. I want to welcome Annie. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited. And we've got Cheryl Diane here, who's also part of our group. Thank you so much for coming and joining and encouraging us and sharing this information. Um, I wanted to say that it's always that like shift in perspective that happens. Like you said, you are the kind of person, kind of like me, that's like a research person. Like it didn't happen like right away. Like, okay, I'm gonna like I did end up changing my diet after that one documentary, but the learning kept going. And I think
Hmm.
that's awesome that you continue to reinforce what you had learned in that video and found people to look up to. And the T. Colin Campbell nutritional studies course, from what I understand, is very difficult, and it's like, it teaches you a lot. Did you find it was like a really enlightening experience?
Oh yeah, it's very intricate and in depth, and it goes across the spectrum of how the the benefits, the positives of eating more natural diet is what I kind of think of it as, stuff that grows from the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and the adverse side effects that come from eating a diet that's not conducive to human health. Really, it's not natural to human health. The way that we're raised to eat, especially in this country. Many countries, though, this is global now. The way that we eat in America has been kind of passed on throughout the world. We are looked up at, right, by many countries as the kind of the pinnacle of success and of everything. So I think there's just an assumption that, like, well, you want to eat like an American too, then, I mean, everything else is good about America, from the outside looking in. And yeah, so not necessarily true, and that's kind of what has inspired me to, really kind of speak more about this, because for years I was just studying it myself, and I kind of got to a point where I realized, like, I'm learning so much about this, but I mean, what good is it if I'm just keeping it to myself? I mean, I kind of felt like I was, it's almost criminal for me to not speak out about it, because I know the truth, and I want other people to know the truth. And I also think that um, you're not really, I don't know, there is some diversity in the plant-based community, the plant-based space, but a lot of the people that we look up to, that are kind of the pioneers, they all look similar, as far as their ethnic backgrounds, and
Right.
so I think that we need a little bit more diversity in that department. And also I think to see people that are younger, to put it, lack of a better word,
Mm-hmm.
to see people that are younger, that are already out here learning about this stuff, because so many of us will take our youth for granted, right? So we'll think that because, oh well, I'm only in my 20s, or this and that, so I'll just keep on doing this, and then maybe when I'm 50 I'll think about trying to be healthier or something like that. Sometimes it's too late. It's too late. I mean, and the food system, I mean, it's not getting any better. It's not getting any better. They don't want to educate us on this stuff, because if they do, like, it changes everything, right? So it changes, the simplicity of how they're making all this money from these few, what they call food groups, that are not it's not food, really, to be honest. Like, when you really break it down for what it is, this is not the way we were intended to eat. And the health outcomes are the proof, really. I mean, you can go into all the detailed science of it all, but just look around you. Just look around you. This isn't normal. To see the high rates of obesity that we're suffering from as people. This isn't normal, and it's happening at younger ages, right? So it's like, uh, kids are at a younger age than ever are becoming obese, and
Mhm.
you know that's not a good way to that's not a good foundation for life. And that's the heartbreaking part of it, because as children we have little to no control over what we're putting in our bodies, really, because we just do what we're told.
Mhm.
And in many ways the education system, you know, love teachers, and they're underpaid. We love teachers, but the system itself is what I'm talking about. It's not a focal point to teach young children the truth about nutrition.
Mhm.
And I remember, you know, being a kid and we had the food pyramid, and the food pyramid, it has changed. It changes like every 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
Since I was a kid, it just keeps changing. And if you look at it now, it has adjusted. It's gotten a little better. It's gotten a little better. There's a little bit more like science behind it, kind of.
Yeah.
There's
Well, I
still
think
there's
they have to be
yeah.
very careful, right? Like you said, because the government, like milk, might be a sponsor for the school in such a way. You know what I mean? So it's like we always think that our health is the first thing, first and foremost. Well, our vegetables even aren't grown that way now. They're grown for profit. So that's why, like, it if you're looking at what we're told is healthy, there's this little tiptoe and dancing around what's healthy and what they have to say is healthy in so many different industries. It's If it were nonprofit, it would be different. And we think our school system is, but it's really not, as what I've learned. I don't know if you've learned that as well.
Yeah, no, you're entirely right. Yeah, the dairy industry is a funder of a lot of school systems. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, make it make sense. You know, I can't really make it make sense. Uh, we've normalized, you know, consuming the milk of another mammal um, for nutritional value. I, I mean, if it was 100 years ago and you told somebody that, then maybe. But there's just too much research now. There's too much science. Unfortunately, it's not extremely mainstream. You got to look for it, but it's not hard to find. It's not hard to find, you know. And but really, you just think of the basis of it all. It's like, you know, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't have these like giant factories and things like this. We wouldn't be living this way. It wouldn't be normal for a human to, you know, go underneath a cow, a female cow, a mother cow, and to just, you know,
Drink
start yeah, just start like drinking milk from her like she's our mother. You know, it
Right.
doesn't make sense. I mean, even babies shouldn't be drinking cow milk. Human babies shouldn't be drinking cow milk. You
Mhm.
know, the hormones in there they're not made for us, and so they speed up the growth process, which is not good. Like speeding up the growth process, especially at a young age as an infant, is not good. I mean, and you see the results even more so in young girls, especially in this country. These hormones, they're causing them to have their period a lot earlier than naturally a girl would start to have a period. I mean, you're talking about like 10 years old and a girl's having a period. This is not good. It's not. And there's a lot of like research that shows that a correlation between just that alone, the early start of women's menstruation cycle, and the link to breast cancer. You
Mhm.
know, just that alone.
That
I
link
mean,
always,
yeah,
like the fact that the yogurt and things advertise, or advocate for that, is always so, like, it's such a, a disconnect. Like, it's very interesting to watch what, in health, though. What do you think, why people don't know this information? Like, you're telling us this, but someone watching might have never heard this. Like, did you, like, we're told milk does a body good and we need milk for strong bones, and that like is all a marketing thing. It sounds like it's not.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. It's all a tactic because, they've created this system and it's just so financially lucrative. They are just, robbing us of both our finances and our health. It's a double whammy. And then, it's even more than that, really. I mean, we're affecting the entirety of, the ecosystem by doing all this, because in order to house these cows, you're taking up massive amounts of land. I'm talking about, I just saw, I was just reading a book and I saw that it has been estimated that now we're at about 43% of global land. 43%. I mean, that's insane. This is just for cows. Just for cow. Well, I think is 37% to house the cows, and the other 6% is for crops just to feed cows. That's of the entire Earth's surface. You're almost at 50% of the Earth's surface being used to house one single animal, really just to do this weird stuff to it, take the milk from it, and the boy cows, the baby boys, they're just slaughtered right off the back for veal. So they're just slaughtered immediately. They don't even have a chance.
And we put these
Um,
names on things, veal and
yeah, right,
we're
and
not
you don't.
told, except for
Yeah,
poor chickens. For some
yeah,
reason, people are okay with saying I'm eating a chicken's wing, but like
of
with
course.
with cows, it's all packaged really pretty. And I even read they stick stuff in there's some kind of chemical that's used to make it even look red instead of it's not decaying flesh like we're really eating. I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of gross after a while. I never thought this, of course, and I'm not saying that I didn't eat meat or enjoy it, but like once you have that little shift, isn't it so like it's like it clicks and it's like you can't turn back. You can't ever look at it the same.
Yeah, no, entirely. I mean, yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, and I've been looking at it like this a lot recently, is I think what there's a word that we use to, describe these beings, animal. We use the word animal, and sometimes when that word is used to describe a human, a lot of time it's a negative condensation, right? So you say a human is an animal, it's usually saying that like they're a monster, they're maybe like a psycho or a killer or something like that. I think, animal, in describing a human, if we think of ourselves as an animal, because we technically are, we're land mammals, so we are an animal species, right? If we think of ourselves as an animal, like, I don't see why. How I'm trying to say is, looking at myself as an animal, and I'm an herbivorous animal, right? So we are naturally meant to eat plants, and that's kind of what was the intended fuel source, right?
Mm-hmm.
Carbohydrates, fruits, and so when you really get down to that and you break it down and you realize that your body isn't designed to process meat, because of the way our intestinal tract is in comparison to a naturally like carnivorous animal.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Very different. That's the thing that sells me on it too. You're right.
yeah, and so that's just where it gets really weird to me. I'm like, why are we doing this? And not only that, but I mean, I guess from an ethical standpoint, I started this whole like journey myself, all about the nutritional science, and try to stick to that, because I think that's a really powerful message, is that like the science shows that this is not intended to be in our body. But if you want to talk about from an ethical standpoint, I mean, uh, it's hypocrisy that we are supporting and consuming this animal, or these typically three animals, sometimes four, depending on the time of the year. that we're eating them, but we're treating a couple other animals as they're like kings and queens. You know, we treat them and we love them, and I love pets. You know, I love domesticated animals, but like, why are we doing this to these other animals? Like, it doesn't make sense. And then you know, going back into the health aspect of it, it's like you you see all these commercials. I mean, you know, ads are predominantly two industries really. When you see any commercials, it's like it's either for meat, dairy, eggs. You know, we'll say that's one side of it, and the other
Yep.
side of it is pharmaceutical medicine. And
Yes.
so you're being sold all that you see, all you see, and it's just brainwashing you just to see this stuff all the time, all the time, all the time. And you know, if you're hungry, I mean, I remember when I used to eat this way, it was like, oh man, I see another pizza. You know, I'm gonna need to get me a meat lover's pizza with stuffed crust. That was my favorite thing, a meat lover's pizza with stuffed crust. And now, you know, you couldn't find somebody that's farther from it. But so I mean, you see these ads, see a couple of them, and it's a cheeseburger, and it's this, and then the next thing is like this ad for you know, control your blood pressure, or you
Yeah.
know, new thing for diabetes, and just this, that, and the other. You know, it's all so crazy that this is the
No
way that we're living.
of the food or health or diet or anything that has anything to do with what we're talking about here on this channel and thousands of other channels, yet nothing mainstream yet that talks about this, you know, this plant-based. It's so strange. And I wanted to say, you started to go on to this, and I'm interested in this because you were talking about this at the climate healers. So we're using all this land, we're breeding cows using all this land. How does that contributes obviously to world hunger, because we could use all that for people. We're destroying land, and then like this same food is also being fed to us, which is making us sick, and yet it's marketed as health food and protein, and you know, and it's just like this cycle of opening our eyes to something that, you know, we have to be a little bit different at this point. We're the minority of people that know this, but like when we look back on history, like I commend you for telling your story and putting your journey out and your, you know, evolution of learning this, because, you know, you and me both grew up eating meat and meat lovers pizzas and cheeseburgers and steaks. So like you can have this shift in consciousness, and you have to kind of open your mind to it, because it's not going to be like, you know, the most convenient thing to think everything I ever learned was wrong, right? Like,
No, yeah, that's the hardest part about it. That's the hardest part about it. But for me, in a way, it was both. It was both the hardest part and the easiest part, because realizing that I was lied to. I'm the type of person that like, okay, now I found out you lied to me. You know, now I'm out to learn. I'm out to learn all of this. I want to learn all of this. This needs to be exposed. You know,
right.
this is not right. I mean, we're set up for disaster. And I guess the other part, yeah, the other part that got me into this was that when I was watching that documentary, What the Health, it just made me think about my family. Um, so specifically, like my aunts and uncles on my dad's side of the family. uh, I had about six aunts and uncles total, you know, two aunts and four uncles. None of them made it past the age of 65. Most of them died in their 50s. And uh, only really one of them really struggled with obesity. So that's something that I want to bring out too, is that don't think that because you're somebody that's not suffering from obesity that you're off the hook. Because the thing is we don't have an x-ray machine in our house. We can't, you know, see our insides. We don't see what the damage that's happening to our organs. And somebody at optimal weight can suffer a heart attack just as much as somebody that's suffering from obesity.
Hmm. And we hear a lot about, like, I mean, I did growing up anyway, like when you'd hear different people, it was unimaginable. Like, he worked out and he ate like really healthy. But I think the definition of healthy is, even doctors are online talking about how healthy it is to eat chicken instead of this, or, and like, it's collectively not what we're supposed to be eating. And like, it really, it confuses, and this information is put out there to confuse people. It's really simple. You can eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And then we have the whole thing now of, great, ethically people are getting into plant-based, but there's so much now processed food and things like that. And I mean, not that you can't throw some in here and there or a special occasion, I understand that, but like, people then are living on the processed food, and then it's kind of making it look like, oh, now it's unhealthy to be vegan, and then they're using that propaganda to kind of deter people from it. I feel like it's just kind of like this cycle of, like, trying to disprove that it's the right way that we should eat, because there's a lot of evidence and a lot of people switching to plant milks, and the industry is kind of scared, I think, and I get it, because people have families that have grown up in the dairy industry, and that's their, and the meat industry, and then that's their way of doing things and their way of supporting their family and stuff. So I guess there has to be also programs to help them find a new method of money, making money. I've heard of some going to mushroom farming, which is amazing. Like, I think that's the shift that also has to happen, like, both for the environment and for animals, for our health. Like, but it's going to take a lot to shift that. Like, what, I guess, talk to us about what you talked about, the climate healers. Like, was that basically just about health and the environment?
I mean, yeah, it was the gist of just the fact that that yeah, what we're eating is a huge contributor. By and large, what a majority of us are eating is the huge contributor to climate change and deforestation, and not only that, but to the loss of wild animals. Wild animals are we've lost about 65% of wild animals just in the past 54, between from 1970 to now. We've lost 65% of the wild animals that were on this earth. And yeah, if you look, you'll see that I mean, you can look it up, that there's different species that go extinct every day. You just don't hear about it because they're not like the mainstream species, or
Mm-hmm.
the types of animals that you would see maybe at a zoo or something like that. So yeah, but I mean, this is happening every day. It's just crazy. The forest is just being destroyed, and all just for this one animal, the cow, that's killing us. So it's just like, I just,
And these
once you
aren't
know, you
extra
know.
animals, right? These aren't animals that we're trying to, we have to get rid of. Like, people think, like, oh, the world's overpopulated with cows. We're breeding them to, like, do this to them, right?
Yeah, right, right, right. No, the world is overpopulated with cows. That's true. Yeah, but it's because of us. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because of us. I mean, none of these cows are naturally living their lives, like, at all. You know what I mean? I mean, with the exception of some small farms and stuff like that, or sanctuaries, really. But yeah, none of these animals are being able to live their life normally, and I would imagine that they don't want to be in these huge factories, crammed next to each other, contracting these diseases, and being injected with all kinds of stuff to increase the speed of their growth, and antibiotics in them so that they don't get sick, and then we eat them. And that's another kind of thing to it, is there's a lot of talk about something called antibiotic resistance. That's kind of something that a lot of the people in that field are getting worried about, is that we keep consuming all these animals with all these antibiotics, pumped into them. And what that's doing is it's making us more susceptible to illness, really, because what happens then is when you do contract a sickness, an illness, a virus, or something like that, it's harder for your body to fight it off because you'll get antibiotics from a doctor or whatever, prescribed antibiotics, and they don't even work for you anymore because you have such a tolerance because of all the antibiotics you've been unknowingly putting in your body. It's just crazy. It doesn't make any sense. And all the saturated fat that you get when you intake the animals, and it's just like I say, it's bad all around. There's no argument for it, really, because it's bad all around. It's bad for you and the environment, and it's bad for the animals. It's unfair. It's hypocrisy. It's discrimination, really. I mean, it's discrimination. You're discriminating against a certain species versus other species. It's us as humans thinking that we have dominion over these animals, that they belong to us and that we're superior to them. Even though they, like us, have all a lot of the same faculties, right? So they have a brain and they have a heart and they have eyes. They can see what's going on. They can
Yeah.
hear. So they know what's going on. So they're in torture chambers and they can hear what's going on. They know what's going to happen. If this was happening on a mass scale to cats and dogs, it would be a whole different story. It kind of makes me sick that we're doing this. It's like, it's just not fair.
It
It's just
doesn't
not
make
fair.
sense to me anymore. This one was made and created for food, but yet our bodies weren't designed to eat that as humans. And look what on a mass scale we're doing to the world, to ourselves, all because of like someone having to do that based on survival, maybe at certain points in time when we didn't have a grocery store or whatever, in some alternate part of the world where it was too cold. Like we're used that and ran with it because things develop culturally. Carl, I'm so grateful you're here too, but he's so grateful he made the choice to love all living beings. Yeah, like that point was so powerful to me about like when I looked at my cat and then I looked at or the cats now, and like I'm looking at all these billions of animals that we're ignoring. We're torturing billions of animals, and like the world's got all these other issues they're putting firsthand. This is the issue that needs to be in the forefront, whether it's politics or what else we're talking about. Like this problem that we're sick, we're dying, we're all on medication. What the health, I wanted to bring that up too when you talked about saturated fat. That was so eye opening for me when I saw that about the diabetes being caused by insulin resistance by saturated fat and not by sugar. Our whole life we're taught, oh, don't eat too much sugar. And it had nothing to do with it. I'm like, wow, like eye opening this whole thing is. And I'm so glad that you've taken it to the next level and studied it and got your certification, because that actually gives you a lot of credentials to be able to speak intelligently on this, and a lot of knowledge about the facts of it, and environmentally, like, I can already tell you're going to make a big impact on a lot of people. And even if we help one person, it's great, but I think
Exactly. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Even if you help one person is great. One person can lead to many different people, and even if somebody doesn't make a swift adjustment, because I mean, human nature is to continue doing what's comfortable and what's not. You don't want to make your life any more challenging than it is. Maybe you have other things going on in your life, and so it's like, I don't know if I got time to kind of make all these switches or whatever. But just hearing it and knowing, okay, this is true, it just makes you think about it a little more. I think, at the very least, when you hear information and you process it, and then you go and do your own research and say, wow, what they were talking about was real, because that's what it was for me. Just seeing that documentary, realizing that what they were talking about was real. And that kind of just puts it all into perspective. So that's kind of, I think that's the key to all this, to kind of changing the way we view food and what really is meant to be in the human body. I think the key to it is you got to do your own research, and there's many places to do that. um, yeah, I think that's what's most important, is educating yourself, because if you don't educate yourself, you have no reason to make any changes. So a lot of us, we just don't even want to know.
Mhm.
um, and I think we do it subconsciously or consciously. We avoid the truth of this kind of stuff because
We
it's
need
just
to
difficult.
change it,
It's
right?
inconvenient. It's inconvenient. um, but honestly, like the convenience is killing us, and it doesn't have to be, because there's many convenient ways to eat healthfully now. And yeah, we just got to have a different outlook on what health is. um, I think that's one of the things, is like, a lot of us, we don't know what healthy really looks like. We haven't seen it. I mean, we come from families where all we saw was sickness and illness. And sometimes it's hard to connect the two of, well, man, all my family, all my older relatives, they had, heart disease, diabetes, and, uh, they had, somebody had a stroke or this and that. But you don't connect that the reason, primary contributor to that, was more than likely their diet. I mean, even if you like take out things like smoking, or drug use or alcoholism, people will last longer, even with those kind of vices, if they have a healthy enough diet. I'm not saying you should be doing any of those things,
Right.
but I'm just saying that
That's how
if your
important.
diet is healthy, it can actually counteract a lot of the negative effects of some of the other things that we put in our body that maybe we shouldn't be. But when you have both of them combined, then you're in trouble. Then you're really going to cut your life expectancy probably by a third. Which is, that can be, I mean, a good 30 years or so. And I think a lot of people, especially young people, they don't really care about that. They're like, well, I'm young. If I die at 60, that's cool with me. Whatever, had fun. But the thing is that I think what a lot of people never really think about is that, well, what if at 40 you contract a chronic illness, autoimmune condition, or, something of that nature, or at 45 you have a heart attack. It happens. Um, and then what? Because now your life is compromised, and you might not die from this stuff, right? So now you're just a sick person, though. So you're sick, so you can't do the things you were able to do 10 years prior to that, but you're only in your 40s.
Hmm.
And then you just keep deteriorating from there on. And you might be one of the lucky ones, if you call it that, and you continue to live on for another 30 or 40 years, but you're diseased, so, and you're disabled, because you can't move as well, and all this stuff. It doesn't, the point of all of it is, really, is that it doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen. Do
Yeah,
your research.
you're not
you know
destined by your genes like we thought at one time. You can change that. I completely agree. What would be like in shifting that to getting excited about like plant-based food? I think that's so important too. Can you share how you like transitioned, or did you do it all at once, or what do you eat like normally now? Like what's it look like if someone, same age range as you, or even different age, but still, what do you like eat, and do you enjoy it?
Okay, I'll start off with the first part, with the what I started eating when I was initially kind of making the jump. Um, so initially it was a lot of there was definitely a lot of like substitute meats, and these dairy free cheeses, and it was a lot of the processed stuff. To be honest, I used it as a transitioning food, to go into eating more healthfully. And it's because I was I didn't start eating this way because I hated the taste of those foods.
Right.
Absolutely not. I loved the taste of those things. I just didn't know they were harming me. And so initially it was very beneficial for me in that first, probably that first year or so, that I did use. I used the Impossible, the Beyond stuff, and
Yeah.
Gardein. There's so many different plant-based meat alternatives out there, and a lot of them are very spot on with the textures and the tastes.
Mhm.
And ultimately, long term, that's you don't want to stay on those, but I think as a food to get you into eating more healthy. Absolutely, absolutely. I think if it's going to get you away from putting animal protein in your body, um, then that's a good thing. Ultimately. Uh, and I'll get back. I want to get back to the animal protein thing in a second, but um, for as far as what I eat nowadays, I guess it's a little bit different from where I was then. Um, so nowadays, I'm pretty basic actually. I'm pretty basic. So which I think simplicity is key for anything in life, right? If you're sticking with any kind of routine, that's gonna help you stick to it. So for me, a morning kind of starts out with my what used to be a morning bowl of oatmeal. It was like steel cut oats. Now I've just changed that to quinoa. So I have quinoa for breakfast actually, with nuts. Typically walnuts, a lot of different spices, Ceylon cinnamon, usually a couple blueberries in there or whatever berries I have at the time. So yeah, I mean, pretty simple stuff. And I'll sweeten that with some. I do use date syrup, something
Mhm.
called date syrup. It's just 100% dates.
Mhm.
Um, some people are, go back and forth with, whether that's a whole food or not. But if we're just, if we're not nitpicking, I think it's a better alternative to pretty much any other sweetener that there is. I mean, it's coming from a natural fruit.
From a
That's
date.
all the only thing that's in there. So yeah, I just, the bowl of quinoa starts my morning every day. I mean, when I had that probably about 6:30 this morning my time, and that was about 6 hours ago, and I still feel great. I still feel satiated. I don't even feel hungry. And then typically on like a regular day, I'll have a smoothie in between. After that, sometime after that. And the smoothie has, it varies, but all kinds of fruit in there. I mean, probably 3 4 servings of fruit and just in the one smoothie. And I'm big on daily flax seeds, ground flax seeds, super important, super nutritious. Just look up the benefits of ground flax seeds alone. But yeah, then hemp seeds, chia seeds. I just throw a tablespoon of all the high omega-3 good plant protein in there. Um, and yeah, I mean, what else? Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the gist of it. Or I guess oh, and it'll be I'll put greens in there too. So I do a green smoothie. Got to get your greens in, right? Uh, and yeah, I mean that's kind of that. And then for the evening, or lunch evening, sometimes I just eat a big lunch,
Mhm.
and the lunch is so big that I don't even eat dinner.
Yeah.
I kind of like doing that. But yeah,
Really
lunch is
healthy for you too, from what I'm reading a lot. The
uh-huh.
closer we don't eat to bedtime is best. I'm still
Yeah,
struggling with that though.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Typically, I think you wanna stop eating 3 to 4 hours before bed. Typically, yeah. But oftentimes I stop eating even before that. Some people think it's crazy, uh, but I mean, I've gotten all my calories in for the day, and so usually with dinner or lunch, whatever, that afternoon meal, it'll be more of like a maybe a brown rice with some kind of beans or tofu, a bunch of veggies, and just a good sauce on there with it. It all varies, but typically got to have some beans in there for that protein for sure. Everybody always wonders, oh, where you get your protein? Protein is from the beans, right? Beans, nuts, seeds. Yeah. So I mean, long story short, I mean, it's actually pretty simplistic. It's not even that in depth. But at the same time, it is really tasty. Yeah, it's really good. Now I wouldn't be eating this way if I just
Like,
I'm not like I'm not just like a robot or something. Like it's not like bland. Like no.
yeah. Well, I think we all think that. Like, I know when I first thought about vegan food, just way before I even went vegan, I was like, oh, it probably tastes like cardboard, or we think of some big plate of lettuce is what all the vegans eat. I
Mhm.
had no idea. I didn't even know the difference between vegetarian and vegan, and that's one of the things that helped me create Veganowledge. Was like, I think this stuff needs to get out there. So I appreciate you coming and sharing all this knowledge. And Annie, I love that fruit and greens are very hydrating. Yeah, that smoothie was sounding really good right about now that you were having. Oh, but like, also, do you feel that the food doesn't, even when you eat the whole food, it doesn't like make you so tired or weighed down? I can definitely tell the difference in what I eat now, and how like I would stop and get a breakfast sandwich on the way to work in the morning, and then by like, I was just struggling through my day,
Yeah.
even though I was a young person at that time in my 20s, maybe, but I would always not ever feel the energy I have right now at 47. So I'm like, something's working, because I'm like nonstop now. And then I would have periods of after lunch, I'd be, going to sleep at my desk and things, like it definitely just is a different vibe when you're really eating the food that goes for your own body. Would you go back to the protein thing about why animals are known for protein?
So the animal protein thing. No, what I wanted to say about that is so animal protein, it promotes something in the body, a hormone called IGF-1. It promotes the growth of that. It speeds up the growth of that in a way. So you're by consuming all this animal protein, your IGF-1 levels are going up higher than they need to be, than they should be. And so what happens then is the high IGF-1 contributes to cancer. So pretty much, and this is, I mean, you can just do a simple search of this. I mean, you don't have to really go in depth to find this out. Uh, Animal protein of any kind promotes, IGF-1 hormone growth, and in turn that causes cancer, all different types of cancer. So yeah, essentially, I mean, to simplify it, animal protein is probably the primary contributor to the cancer epidemic that we have.
Hmm.
I mean, not I mean cancer and just about everything else. I mean, it's just
And we're putting all this money to research, and the answer is like right there. Like it's I remember writing this poem about it. Like, the answer is right in our face, like it's so obvious, but yet it can't be, it can't be shared. And I'm like so glad that you talked about that. And animals are eating the protein basically, and then we're getting it like secondhand.
yeah. I guess another thing I'll say about protein that a lot of people don't know is that all protein is derived from plants. All. So that's just fact. So all protein is derived from plants. Now the thing is that when for carnivorous animals, not us, animals that can actually eat another animal without having to use devices and heat it up and, do all these things to it to sanitize it. Animals that can just bite right through another animal and eat them from a living point and just kill them like that. So they get the protein from the animal, but that animal that they ate more than likely got protein from plants. So it's third party protein when you get your protein from an animal source. You're just third party protein, and it doesn't make sense because the protein package that eating meat, eating an animal, that it comes in, it comes with so many negative consequences. So yeah, you get your protein, but you also get your high doses of saturated fat and your LDL cholesterol going through the roof. And none of this stuff happens if you don't consume this stuff. You just feel better. You feel better. Your brain feels better. You feel clearer, mental clarity. That's kind of what happened a lot for me was yeah, after a meal I wouldn't feel, yeah, like you said, like groggy, or I wouldn't feel tired. That's how I knew that something was different about this. I'm like, it was for the first time I felt like energized from food. And then, now I realize that, like, that's what food is supposed to do. That's how it's food. I think that's the best takeaway really is, you're eating food that you're supposed to eat when it makes you feel energized, not when it makes you feel like I got to go lay down. If you got to go lay down, you're not putting good stuff in your body. It's just that simple. There's no way around it. There's really no argument for it.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's like, use your own personal experiment. And that's like the cool thing about, everybody that I speak to. I've never had anyone that was doing a proper, plant-based or raw, whether it was raw vegan or whole food plant-based, that said they felt worse unless there was something missing that they were already deficient in and they weren't getting the proper, well-rounded diet. And Annie and both Cheryl are mentioning that they are 66, and I'm noticing also that, like, I'm telling you, they do not look that age at all. So I think we're on the right track, James. We might end up, aging better than we would have, right? Because the thing is just also, like you said, you feel clearer too. Like, our mind can do so many things. I'm seeing so many people, like, well into their, 70s and even 80s that I've seen. Not that there's not a one off here and there. Well, my grandfather smoked, drank, and ate
Yeah,
meat.
of course.
Of
Yeah.
course, that's going to happen. You can get lucky, but I'm talking about, I started thinking after I started this in my 40s, like, diseases are starting way, like, I had Jeff Palmer was on here, and he was talking about kids at 15 years old already showing signs when they've tested them now of carotid arteries from saturated fat, from what we normalize as food. So, like, as early as we can start this. I had a rough 20s. I was eating bad, I was drinking, but the fact that finally at 40s, getting it together, I'm giving myself a better opportunity of nothing happening. Not that something doesn't happen one off, but the best opportunity, like you said about young people, and it can be fun. Like, I'm watching these people making these amazing plant-based creations. I'm watching Annie talking about her sprouts that she's growing. It looks so amazing. Cheryl talking about her, her meals that she puts together, like stuff, that she's just whipped up and made. Like, it doesn't have to be a chore. It's going to simplify just like your regular diet, right? Like, it's not so confusing as people. You don't need 100 different recipes. You're just eating a couple staples like you are now. You're just taking out the animals, So I
Yeah,
think,
exactly. No, I mean, most of the stuff that I eat is still like it's exactly what I would have liked to eat, or what I would have been eating then. But it's just a simple substitute of, like, some beans substituting for the meat, and
yeah,
and that way I'm still getting the protein, but I'm not getting the negative. I'm getting the positive without the negative. So I'm getting the protein I need, and plus I'm getting fiber, and I'm not getting saturated fat and bad cholesterol. And so, yeah, I mean, feel good, feel clean. I feel, yeah, I feel energized. I feel like I can, do anything I wanted to do right now. I can just get up and do whatever I wanted to do. And a lot of people will say, well, you're still young, so you'd be able to do that anyway. And it's like, yeah, maybe you're right, but I prefer to err on the side of caution. I'm not trying to play with fire. And ultimately, I don't want to just feel good in my 30s, because let's play the hypothetical and say that, oh, what if you never even change your diet or whatever, and you're still feeling good in your 30s. Okay, cool. 40s come around, it's going to be different. It's going to be different. I've seen and heard many people. 40s come around, and it just feels different than when you were in your 30s, especially if you haven't been treating your body as good as you could have. um, yeah, I
And
mean,
the track we're going, I was going anyway. I was overweight. I was definitely, I already had a high blood pressure. I hadn't been, put on medication yet, but from a visit, I knew that it was high, it was elevated. I probably had pre-diabetes. I just never was someone to get all these, unless I had to go for an exam or something. I didn't really get tested, but you could tell. I just, now looking at comparison, then I thought I was just perfectly healthy, but when I look at the two photos, my face was red, sometimes like just going up steps was different than it is now. Like, and so to get older and feel better is the goal, because that's when most of us get to enjoy our life in their older years. And I don't want to, like, I give myself the best opportunity not to have to be on 100 medications with side effects, or I think we've normalized just, oh, this is doesn't feel good, I can take a medicine, but we don't realize there's a core, like, root problem. And I think that's why, you starting this at such a young age is such a blessing, and you're telling others at that age. There's a lot of people older now that are coming out and saying, like, hey, I'm over 60 and I'm feeling great because I changed my diet. But like, there, like you said, is not enough information right now for like young people. And I think that's definitely something that I can tell you're passionate about, to get it out there, to get this information out, because it's not taught in schools.
yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I want to be a part of helping, at the very least, my community. I want to help, or on an even smaller, I want to be able to help family, friends, whenever they're ready, when they want to be helped. Because this is a it's an addiction. This is another form of addiction, and doesn't really get talked about a lot, right? Like, this is another form of addiction. These foods have addictive properties. They're literally, they do things to the food. There's food scientists, right, that they have that work for these huge, billion-dollar, animal agriculture industries, and they're doing stuff to the food, especially processed foods. Which really, I just think of anything that's not like a grown from the ground is a processed food. I mean, and I think that's the thing that kind of blows my mind, is that we're not looking at uh, an animal, a farm animal. We're not looking at it as a processed food, but it's going through a huge process before it gets to your plate. And it's there's so many things added to this animal. It's just crazy. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would we do this? Why are we risking this? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Just grow the stuff, eat the stuff that comes from the ground. um yeah.
Strill said replacing meat with lentils, quinoa, or mushrooms allows, yeah, that allows her to enjoy the food she grew. Like, the taste you can still have, whether you're whole food, plant based, or even I've seen people with these amazing raw vegan tacos and things. Like, if that's what you're worried about and that would hold you back, it's so easy nowadays with all the different YouTubes out there. Even if you're not sure how to veganize something, you can learn really easily. And it's the same as meat. We're seasoning the stuff that we're eating.
Exactly.
And you can even do it very simply if you want to clear out of everything and just eat, fruits and vegetables. And it's like there's so many ways to do it and do it healthy. You're not, missing out And you brought up something I wanted to touch on before I forget and have you speak on it. Like, people are talking like now about all the different chemicals that we have in food that are not in other countries, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that that's being brought to light, but that one thing is I don't hear that mentioned in mainstream though now. Like, everybody's on the red number 5 being in cereal and stuff. But what about that? Like, is that going to come down the line of will we start noticing, hey, look what's in your meat, or is the industry blocking that part from getting out there?
I mean, I hope that it gets to that point. I hope that it gets to that point. I think it does take people to make their own decisions, and going back to what I said, to educate themselves on this stuff. Don't stay in the dark. Why would you? Why are you doing that? Don't stay in the dark. And I think a lot of times we naturally, as humans, even those of us that don't think of ourselves this way, I think we can be selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean in that way is that we're only thinking about our personal health, and so we're not thinking about the impact that it'll have on the people that care about us if we start deteriorating. If our health starts going bad prematurely. And so, I mean, if you have kids, if you have significant other, if all these stuff, like I would imagine, that they want you to be as healthy as you can be.
Mm-hmm.
um, I think everybody wants to be as healthy as they can be. I think they just don't. I think it's the education thing. I just think that we just haven't learned about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing that I would have never learned about this stuff had it not been for that one single documentary that sparked my interest, that made me, dive deeper and figure this stuff out. And it's the truth. So I think, going back to what you said, will they eventually be exposed? Will we eventually have, the masses of people talking about, well, what about the chemicals in the meat? I think it can get there. I do think it can get there, because if enough people start to think more deeply about this, and educate themselves and find out that, like, hold on, maybe this doesn't make sense. Maybe this isn't right. You have to think about it. Um, yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think that it can change. Ultimately, I think it can change. I hope it will change, because if it doesn't, then we will continue to see the outcomes that we're having, if not worse. Um, and I mean, we got through something a few years ago with COVID. We're kind of on the other side of all that now. And a lot of people are unsure about what started that, or this or that. And
You
the
mentioned
chance,
Dr. Greger. He speaks a lot on that, that it came from
yep,
exactly what we're trying to avoid by, this diet.
exactly, yeah, yeah. I mean, listen to the science. The science, it will always prevail. I feel like when you listen to the science, a majority of the major illnesses that we have today, they come from eating animals, and from doing weird stuff to animals in these giant factories. Uh, it's causing them to get sicknesses because they're in such close proximity, and then their sicknesses, they transfer over to humans eventually. That's what causes these pandemic outbreaks. I mean, I think it was, what, 1918 or something, over 100 years ago, that was the pandemic then, the flu. And it was a lot more deadly than COVID, I believe. And the signs are pointing
Bird flu
to.
or something now
Yep,
is
there's another bird flu now. It's mainly, it's in a stage where it's primarily only able to interact with the other chickens, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, I've been watching that too, and I think they've said there have been a few humans that work in close proximity with the chickens that have contracted it, and that it has a very, very high rate of death. I mean, they're
not
saying that.
the animals too, James. I remember hearing from, I think I was talking with someone and she was telling me that that what sparked her to become plant based. Is it Angela? I think it was, but one of them, Angela or Nancy, both have spoken on it. But they told me that this video they watched about how the humans that work in these animal, like the chicken factories and things, how they're mistreated and that the health situation that they're put into, and that came out kind of in the pandemic too. um, I think so. It's like humans, it's reciprocal, the
Yeah.
animals, and the whole, whether you look at it ethically or science wise. And then I'll have those people that'll probably come under and of course comment, no, you need meat, that if you want to stay stuck in that
Yeah.
bubble, that's fine. But like what we had happen both with two different documentaries, and there's been so many documentaries that people have watched that sparked that little bit of curiosity. Just at least open your mind to it. You don't have to go plant-based today or tomorrow, but I would want to know. Like, I feel like people aren't given the information. I feel like you take that approach too. Like, you almost got mad. Like, why haven't I heard about this?
No, I was mad. Yeah, no, I was definitely mad. I felt like I was lied to. Not I felt like I was lied to. I realized I was lied to, and then I think what really caused the more anger about all that was that it wasn't just me lied to. It was my family before me, and so on and so on. And that's the thing that's scary about this this really like giant lie, is that if you don't get to the truth of it, then you continue to have generational sickness, and that's the thing, that's the real genetic factor of all this, is that you're passing down your food habits to the next generation. You're teaching them what your parents taught you, because that was your culture. That's this and that's that. Um, and you're not these. Nobody is intending. My parents didn't feed me the way they did growing up because they wanted to hurt me. Like, they
Mhm.
didn't do that. They did that because they didn't know they were doing. That was the best
They love
information
you.
they had. That
Yeah.
they loved me. That was the best information they had. So I mean, that's what a lot of people. You talk about love and food, right? Food is love. And so it's always good intentions, but the thing is without education on nutrition, then we're really making a blind choice. Just like I said, you're playing with fire. But you don't know it. So I mean, there's no blame on you. This is a systemic issue.
Mhm.
It's being held under wraps for financial gain. This is all for financial gain at the end of the day. Playing
Mhm.
with human health for financial gain. Playing with the environmental health for financial gain. It's all tied into one. And then as long as we keep consuming this way, we will keep being sick, and we'll have to keep buying pharmaceutical medicine. So they'll keep making money that way too. They'll keep making more hospitals because they got to house us when we're sick. So I mean, it's just all a revolving cycle of
Mhm.
sickness. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You can put a stop to it. Whenever you're ready, you can put a stop to it. You can stop the bleeding, so to speak.
Because we as a consumer drive things, so if you stop participating in this industry, eventually enough of us collectively know this information, we start sharing it with our friends. And if you can find it in yourself to make that choice to at least start to explore it, start to do it. I think a lot of people are like, oh, vegans, they want to push their information, they want to push their beliefs on people. Well, you eat the way you want, I'll eat the way I want. I get that, but we're looking at something broader here. This is not how I'm eating and I want you to eat like me. This is such an impact globally. Our the information is what I want to present out there. You can choose within that how you want to eat, but the information is so important, because I feel like if everybody had this knowledge, and they wouldn't be feeding their kids dairy and meat, and they wouldn't be feeding, at least at some point, once they figured out the logistics. But once your mindset shifts, the other stuff becomes easy. when you have convictions about something, you don't have to think about how you're going to do it. You just make it happen. So if I really shifted my mindset like I did, that I will never touch another animal product and it doesn't make sense to me anymore, then I'm going to figure out what to eat. There's only three things that I had to give up, like you said: chicken, pigs, and cows, pretty much, and sometimes seafood, which is a big thing though culturally in people's life. It's
Yeah.
like we put that as the center of our plate. So like,
Hmm.
you have to just learn that your stuff that you were eating as side items, that they told you, oh, here's this little three pieces of lettuce, a salad before your meal, these are the real things that we're supposed to be eating. It's like the biggest part of this is a mindset click and shift, and you'll figure it out along the way. Like you said, your diet evolved from processed to maybe a little more healthy, and ultimately really simple. Like, even if you're a family, there's so many resources now, and courses, and free things online. Like, everything I've learned, I've not paid for the most part, except for maybe some ebooks and things like that. I've pretty much learned from these people that have come before us, right? Like, so
Exactly.
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, you said it great. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I just think that. Oh, yeah, that's what I was gonna say actually. As far as like nutrients go, because I think that's something that a lot of people worry about. Everybody only thinks about protein, but the thing is, so you're getting all this protein with the animal based diet or standard American diet, but you're not even thinking about all the other micronutrients that you are more than likely missing out on. And so that I think that's the beauty of the more plant based diet, is that you actually get more nutrients when you eat a diet that is mainly plant based or entirely plant based. You get way more nutrients in your body, and in turn, that's why your body feels better. Not only that, but from a standpoint of those who are looking to lose weight, uh, the whole food plant based diet, or anyone similar to it. I know a raw food diet. These diets, you can consume more of a quantity of food and
Mm-hmm.
it have it be less calories. So it's nutritionally dense
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm looking for, right? So you get more nutrients and in less calories.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody worries about their calorie intake, and they do like fad diets or whatever, and you have to really portion stuff out and do this. But when you eat this way, you can really just eat. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you're eating healthy enough, you can just eat. You don't even have to think about it. You don't even
Yeah.
have to think about it. And another thing that I've learned is that a lot of whole foods, a lot of plant foods, like for instance, like nuts. A lot of people say, well, nuts are high calorie food. So nuts, a lot of time when you eat them, let's say you have a serving of like walnuts, and it's like 160 calories or something for just a little quarter cup, but really only about half of those calories are even going to manifest themselves in your body. The other half are going to be gotten rid of later.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just something like that. Realizing that when you put natural foods in your body, whole foods in your body, they don't process the same way that packaged calories do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different thing. It's just different. Look into it. That's at the core of all this. Look into this. Like, if you're watching this and you're on the fence, or um, anything like that, look into this stuff. There's so many resources out there. Know the truth for you and your family, ultimately, because you know it's sucks to say this, but like, you will suffer the consequences if you continue to eat an unhealthy diet. I mean, it's just that simple. It's not about this. Is not about that's not even about like being vegan or anything like that. I'm just saying if you continue to eat an unhealthy diet, you will have unhealthy consequences. I mean, it's
uh,
just facts.
cause and effect, like Eli, that I had on here before. He talks about how everything is. You plant a seed, you water it, you put the right stuff on it to process, it grows. You have other things you do in your life. If you don't, it doesn't. So like, it's the same thing with our health. I mean, and it's like you said, it might be inconvenient at first to try some different things, but we've changed throughout our life. We've changed from when we were 10. We've definitely changed from when we were 15. We've changed from when we're 20. So it's just like now we have to let our mind kind of shift and understand something different, no matter what age we're at. If you're hearing this, that's a good point. Just do some research, give it a try. You can join. I know your Instagram right now. You have Real Trim Jones, which is linked in there, and I have a membership and a free email club and a page, Veganowledge, which he's also part of. So you're welcome to post any knowledge you have in there until you get your own, because I'm sure I see that coming down the line, that you'll probably have a YouTube. I see how passionate you are. I'm sure you'll have a channel at some point. It's just, I'm telling you, because I can see your passion was like mine. I'm like, it's just the next progression, and you'll probably end up doing something. I know right now it's not like your primary, you don't have everything set up yet, but as you get those things, we'll go back and put it in the description if you do decide to make some type of other social media or informational tool for people, or coaching, or whatever you are going to do with your nutritional studies. Because I just I'm really happy to like share everyone's stories, and all these people that are on, even on the chat here. Annie, I've just met her recently, as far as her journey, and like Cheryl, and everyone that Carl. It's like we're all in our own journey, but we've all kind of reached this pinnacle point where we can all be like minded. But we all started where, like you said, somebody that's listening to this that might be like, I don't know about this, I've always been told meat's healthy. Like we were all there at
Hmm.
one point and sparked that interest. Like what the health I saw later on, after I saw this Raw documentary, that actually like made me kind of click something that could start me looking into things. And when I saw what the health, I was like, when I saw Dr. Neil Barnard, who's also a really cool guy, talk about the sugar, because my family struggled with that. And I've always worried, oh my God, I'm going to have diabetes because, and when I saw that I had some form of control over that, I was like, you're kidding me. Like, we control like a little bit more about our health than I realized. I thought things happen and you take medicine. Like, when I found that out, I'm like, oh, wow, I've got to give myself, the best opportunity to to keep, because we live in our body, right? Like, like this is more important than taking care of my car. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like the same thing. We sometimes put more stock into their our objects, like, oh, I got to keep this juicer clean, but like we might forget our own, body like is so important. And like, it's such a blessing, like, to keep going with this, because I know I'm like learning to try to exercise and move around more, because like you said, as you get into your 40s, and how you eat and how you live, and even like other things like sunlight and different things, you just learn on this journey, and you learn about other ways animals are exploited and people. And it's just like, the whole thing starts to click, but you don't have to start with all that. Like, we're throwing a lot at you right now. Like, it might be nutrition, or losing weight, or maybe it's animal rights, or maybe it's the environment. Like, whatever it is, you have to enter in with that belief, and then everything else kind of, I think, collectively figured out. Like you said, the same thing, you got into it like me for nutrition, and then it turned into like ethics. So I think that happens to a lot of us, either that way or the other way. People come in as animal activists and then figure out the nutrition, and then it's like, this is a no-brainer. And then the environment at the same time, how world hunger, like everything is affected by this one big conglomerate, I might say that wrong,
Yep.
industry.
Yep.
that is
Yep.
running the economy, running our brains, running the media. Like it's so much deeper than, than people imagine, and it's like I'm so thankful for people like you who share your story and other influencers for starting to put this out there, and like Unchained TV, who Paige is going to be coming on soon to talk. She's got a channel. Like we're getting closer, we're seeing changes, but there's going to take a lot of us to really touch people with this information, I think.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. Love Paige. Just I got to meet Paige a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Yeah.
And Marakita, right? I was like, that was
Uh-huh.
such an
Yep.
ironic connection. I was like, he said he spoke at the climate healers, and I'm like, oh, I knew some people that were there. I knew Marakita was there, and he's like, oh, I met her, and I'm like, and I met him in a totally different space, like that had nothing to do with that. So it was like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, Paige encouraged me. Paige encouraged me to get up and speak. She was the encouragement for me. Yeah. Paige is really cool.
that is awesome. Oh, that's great. And I know it's just the beginning of your, putting your mark on the world here. So we're excited to see what else you'll do. Is there anything like any words of closing or advice or anything you want to say before we start to wrap up, or anything we haven't covered that you want to mention?
I guess closing words of advice. Do the research. Do the research. I mean, I know a lot of people they don't want to read books and stuff, and I get that. Like if you're not like, not everybody's going to be obsessed with this kind of stuff, but that's what's so good about like documentaries. Man, Netflix, I can't lie. Shout out to Netflix for the documentaries that they have on there. Yeah, you can see what the health on
Find a
there.
lot of stuff too there. And I've got a free version of What the Health. I'm going to link it in here since it was so important to you too.
Oh yeah, it's major to me. So important to me. I mean, if that's all I saw, then it probably would have been enough. I mean, that's how important that one was to me. I feel like, um, yeah. I mean, watch documentaries. Watch documentaries. They're showing you everything is out here. They're showing you. There's people that are exposing these industries for what they are. Um, bottom line is that these major conglomerates, these corporations, they don't care about you. They don't care about us. They don't care about the 99% of people out here. It doesn't bother them what the illness is that you contract from eating these foods. Um, do the research, figure this stuff out. Um, yeah, that's really all I can say
Arm
is
yourself with knowledge. I love it.
there you go. Yeah, yes, exactly, Carl. Yeah, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. They say that, and it's really true. Um, you know, uh, what was the saying? Let food be thy medicine. Yeah, there you go. Food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food.
Mhm.
uh, Goes both ways, because that's the thing too. If that hasn't been like stressed enough, that when you eat healthy food, it heals your body.
Mhm.
It can reverse illness.
I'm glad you
It
brought that
it,
up. Actually,
yep,
good point. We've talked a lot about
yeah,
prevention, but like
we have talked about, yeah, yeah.
reverse.
Yeah, I think it's because I think that's my main big focus is I love prevention, but a lot of times prevention is going to be harder to kind of grasp that concept, because if you're not feeling bad, it's hard to make a choice like that. But when you are feeling bad, just know that you can reverse this, and that you can get yourself healthy enough to not have to take medication anymore for certain conditions. Obviously not everything is not a one size fits all. I guess the other thing is if you're someone that's sick, and you're thinking about changing to eating a lot healthier diet than you had been eating, you should always talk to your doctor first, so that they can manage your medicine, your medication, and stuff like that. Because you know, uh, that's the weird thing about it is you can start eating healthfully, and then you need less of your medicine. So if you're still taking the same amount of your medicine, you can do harm to yourself. That's the power of good nutrition. That is
Yeah,
the power of it. It's so
exactly.
powerful.
It will
Yeah,
start to heal. Like you don't need both of them healing you.
you
You're
don't
already
need
healing.
both.
Like if you're taking
Exactly.
medicine to remove sugar from your blood because your cells are blocked with a lot of saturated fat, and you start lowering your saturated fat, well, that sugar is going to leave the bloodstream based on the insulin letting it out, and you're not going to need as much insulin. If you take insulin, for example, you're not going to need as much medication. So that's a really good thing that we should probably add to the end of each of these. We're not medical doctors, so if you are already suffering, you can reverse it, but make sure you are talking to your doctor. That's a good point.
Absolutely, yeah. Nope, not a medical doctor at all. Not even close.
Not yet,
But
right?
yeah.
You never know what could happen.
Yeah, I just take the I'm really just here to be a messenger. That's all, just a messenger. But do the research for yourself. If there's anything that we talked about today that sounds crazy, because that's kind of where I was. I was like, this sounds too. This is crazy. It's crazy talk. This sounds. Some of it sounds too good to be true. That's why look it up, do the research. There's plenty of resources. One of my favorite ones is nutritionfacts.org,
Hmm.
um, or nutritionstudies.org. Either of those two, both, the combination of them. There's podcasts. The Nutrition Facts podcast is a really good one. Eat to Live,
Hmm.
Dr. Furman. Yeah, I mean,
Overnight.
podcasts. Yeah, podcasts. Documentaries and podcasts. Because if you don't like to read, because then it just takes the excuse away. Really, it's like you can just sit down one night, and instead of going back to watching another episode of your show, you could just watch a documentary one time. And that could be something that sparks a very positive change in your life. Um, that's kind of what it was for me. And it was just one night, instead of watching the show or instead of watching the game, I'm gonna watch this documentary tonight.
And like you
And
said, there's so many ebooks that now, or audio books. You can
audio.
listen to things. You can see. There's some. If you just look up reverse disease with a plant-based diet, you're going to see all these testimonials of people on YouTube. Like YouTube is so powerful, and Facebook and Instagram, all that. You can find communities are really important too. To get around people who are sharing their recipes and their stories. I agree with you there. Like get yourself out there and learn this because it's so like it was just mind blowing to us.
Absolutely, yeah. If you're sick, eat more plants. If you don't want to be sick, eat more plants. I
I
think that's the
love it.
gist of it all, right? I think that's really what it is. Eat more plants. It's just been shown over and over and over again. There's too many studies on this. The research is out there. The more plants you eat, the better. The better you feel. The more natural food you eat, the better you feel. It's that real.
And with a lot of diets that are out there now, people losing weight, even medications people can take to lose weight, those things on the outset, I like what you said earlier. If you're losing weight, that doesn't always mean health, like it definitely makes a difference. Like this carnivore thing that's out there now, based on what you and me both know about saturated fat and animal products, they might feel better because they've taken a bunch of processed food or a bunch of sugar out of their diet. So initially, but what's happening underneath, I feel like is so scary on these fad diets with people even eliminating their carbs. You know, carbs are what makes our body and our brain run. Our fructose and carbohydrate. Like it's just we're misguided when you really like do the research and find like not just someone telling you it, but when you get into it, it starts to make sense on a deeper level, on a cellular level. You start to see what healing is. So you don't have to listen to me or James or Dr. Such and such from online. Like, really look at for these things that are teaching you about it and figure out that it truly makes sense when you compare our digestive system, when you compare all the people in the world being sick. I love that. Like that's the research right there. Most
Yeah,
people eat not like us. Most people are on medication. So like we have to look at it as the proof is right there. I agree with you. And like, I just care about people. I care about animals. I feel like the information's hidden, and I feel like you do, too. And I realized that from the minute, we both first met. Like, I saw your passion in it. And I'm like, so I know it's probably not your normal to come out and talk, but I appreciate all the information you've shared.
No, I appreciate you because I think I've wanted to do this. It's been inside me. I've wanted to do it, but I've kind of been hesitant for one reason or another. But yeah, this is a really cool opportunity for me. Um, yeah, I thank you a bunch for having me on here. Uh, what I can go on forever. You got to tell me when to stop because
I know. Same here.
I just thought about one more thing I wanted to say.
Do
So I don't know if anyone is familiar with or if everyone is familiar with the blue zones. The blue zones are the places in the world where people live the longest, or um, and one thing that they all have in common is that they eat the least amount of processed foods, animal products, and they all eat their main source of protein is beans. And I guess I'll leave it at that because I could be on here forever, and I know JJ's got stuff to do.
Oh, no, I love this. I would stay on here. I didn't even realize how long we've had everyone here. That's awesome. We got so much good information. I'm just going to keep sharing this because that's the cool thing. It'll be online forever, and we can share it with people who might be new to the diet. You can share it with people, and YouTube, if they search vegan, they'll always find this information. So it makes it worth it. The longer, we're going to keep talking until everybody in the world goes vegan. So we'll be here until, like, just kidding. Well, that would be a very interesting live stream, right? We're going to be here until 10 people agree to go vegan. Um, Mona, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I know you'll enjoy this conversation. That's another one of our whole food, plant based kind of friends and advocates. I love it. Thank you guys so much for being here. Mona, Cheryl, Carl, thank you. Annie, thank you for joining in. Everybody that's catching the replay, I appreciate you all being here. And James, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge and your amazing plants formation.
Thank you, JJ. Appreciate you having me.
All right, everyone, enjoy. We'll see you soon on the next one of these. Enjoy your evening.